Let me give you 8 characteristics of a healthy congregation. It's not as good, this is not the whole story, but in terms of the information that comes to my desk, these are the kinds of things that help me know, how's this congregation doing? First, does worship attendance, the trend of worship attendance, exceed demographic trends? Now, if you're in a county that's shrinking, or a community that's shrinking, and your worship attendance is holding steady, that's success, people. I'm not expecting every church to be going up, 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 up. If the demographic situation of where you are is declining, it's going to be different. If, however, your demographic trend doesn't, if your worship trend doesn't match the demographic trend, there's a problem, isn't there? If your county has lots of young people, but everybody in your church is 65 and older, there's a mismatch there. If your county is doing something, it is growing tremendously and your church is declining, there's a problem there. So it's not simply a judgment of who's growing and who's not growing, but it's a question of how is your church making use of the opportunities God has put on your doorstep. Secondly, professions of faith minus confirmation class.
All right.
And Bruce Blaker taught me this. He said every church ought to be holding a confirmation class because you're growing up the kids in your church and helping them make professions of faith, and that's wonderful, and that ought to happen. We did a program in Texas called Bring Your Friends Sunday. I helped lead it. I made a mistake. When I said Bring a Friend Sunday, people said, well, all my friends go to church. I should have said Bring an Acquaintance Sunday. As I did workshops across Texas, I said, well, make some new friends. Next, your church needs to have social action projects that are appropriate to your context. Every church ought to be doing something for poor people. I was at a meeting in Oxford, England. Another evangelism professor put it this way. He said, the poor get into heaven first. And if you want to make it in, you better have some friends on the inside pleading your case. Hello? That got to me. What are you doing for poor folk? What are you doing for hungry people? We've read Matthew 22, the Great Commandments. We read Matthew 28, the Great Commission. Our call to worship was based on Matthew 25. And in the parable of the sheep and the goats, it's not people who say, Lord, Lord, who make it into the kingdom, but the people who did the will of Christ. Fourth, we need to pay attention to Sunday school attendance and small group attendance. We need lots of small groups in our church. We need to revitalize Sunday school. Fifth, we need growing dollars in the grand total paid. We need churches that are increasing their stewardship, that are prepared to make sacrificial contributions not only to the ministry of their local church, but to what God is doing around the state and around the world. Saints, we need a growing percentage of dollars for mission. Congregations shouldn't be spending so much on themselves as much as increasing the percentage that goes for God's work outside their own boundaries. This is, again, fighting the club mentality. Amen. Seventh, we need to talk about full payment of M&Ms. We need as a conference, and there's some good news on that front. Debbie Maltby informs me that we rose from 85% in 2003 to 88% in 2004. Pray, give yourself a Again, this is part of our covenant as an annual conference. And so it is that we need to pay attention to that. Eighth, we need a commitment to excellence in every part of our ministry. That includes worship. That includes preaching for us clergy. That includes our children's programs, after-school programs. That includes our youth ministry programs. We live in a world where we have got to do things as best as we can, as well as we can possibly do them. And we need to continually look at improvements. You've noticed I've had a telecast, a webcast last time. that went across the Kansas West Conference. We held a meeting the next week evaluating my performance and the technicians. I did a tsunami appeal. It's on the website. I had a phone conversation or emails with Lisa Deal and Julie Busby, her counterpart in the East Conference, evaluating my performance, their performance too. In other words, as bishop, I'm continually asking for feedback. How can I do my job better? That's what I expect out of all of you clergy. I expect you to be looking for feedback about how to improve your preaching. Lay people, I expect you to be asking for feedback. How can you do a better job of staffing the youth program? How can you be doing a better job of hospitality in your local congregation? These are the 8 marks of a healthy congregation.